each of you has admitted that none of you are fact witnesses. We walked in without facts, and unfortunately, because what we say isn't necessarily evidence, we have wasted the American people's time, and we are going to walk out of this chamber, and we still have no facts that are leading to anything. But let me give y'all a little bit of tea while we're here. So, I have a document that I will ask for unanimous consent to enter into the record. It's a fact sheet on President Trump's shady business dealings with the Chinese government.
What are you entering in? A record from who?
This is from the Congressional Integrity.
Congressional Integrity Project, the dark money PAC?
I object.
I object to that too.
Of course y'all gonna object, but we gonna talk about it. So, it says, Trump has extensive financial ties to the Chinese government. President Trump collected millions from Chinese government-owned entities while in office. I have the best tenants in the world, President Trump was well aware of the multi-million-dollar lease to Chinese interests. President Trump promised to donate foreign government profits while in office, but he donated less than a third of his proceeds from the Chinese government. President Trump maintained 3 foreign bank accounts while in office, including one in China. President Trump's business with China raised legal and ethical concerns. President Xi loves the people of China. He loves his country, and he's doing a very good job. Let me tell you something. I don't want to talk about what y'all want to act like is some big mystery, because we keep sitting here, and Professor Gerhardt, just to be clear, as my colleagues have even tried to provide evidence, which they're not the ones to provide evidence, have you ever heard them say "if" since we've been sitting here for I don't know how long?
Yes, I've been taking a tally.
Oh, okay. Can you show us? Can you tell us what the tally is?
More than 35 times, the Republican witnesses and Republican members of the committee have used the word "if."
Thank you so much for that. Because honestly, if they would continue to say "if" or "Hunter" and we were playing a drinking game, I would be drunk by now. Because I promise you, they have not talked about the subject of this, which would be the president. But let me tell you something that was so disturbing as I walked in to this chamber today. As I prepared, I said, what is the crime? Because when you're talking about impeachment, you're talking about high crimes or misdemeanors. And I can't seem to find the crime. And honestly, no one has testified of what crime they believe the president of the United States has committed. But when we start talking about things that look like evidence, they want to act like they blind. They don't know what this is. These are our national secrets. Looks like in the shitter to me. This looks like more evidence of our national secrets, say on a stage at Mar-a-Lago. When we're talking about somebody that's committed high crimes, it's at least indictments. Let's say 32 counts related to unauthorized retention of national security secrets, 7 counts related to obstructing the investigation, 3 false statements, 1 count of conspiracy to defraud the United States, falsifying business records, conspiracy to defraud the United States, 2 counts related to efforts to obstruct the vote certification proceedings, 1 count of conspiracy to violate civil rights, 23 counts related to forgery or false document statements, 8 counts related to soliciting, and I could go on because he's got 91 counts pending right now. But I will tell you what the president has been guilty of. He has unfortunately been guilty of loving his child unconditionally, and that is the only evidence that they have brought forward. And honestly, I hope and pray that my parents love me half as much as he loves his child. Until they find some evidence, we need to get back to the people's work, which means keeping this government open so that people don't go hungry in the streets of the United States. And I will yield.
And I will yield. You talk, look, just go home. It's time to go home after that. Representative Jasmine Crockett, who, by the way, she was with us last Friday receiving the NNPA's National Leadership Award. And you can see why. That's in a nutshell why she was honored by the Black Press of America. It is unreal how she just easily just read them. They used to say read them. I mean, she just read them. And it also sadly underscores just how absent of a heart, of absence of what's right, absence of any care about their constituents that many of them on both sides, don't make no mistake about it, on both sides of the aisle have. Jasmine Crockett just showed you, Representative Crockett showed you that it's not about you, the people. It's not about anything. Now it's all about one person named Donald Trump. She absolutely was spot on. Who, and this is not a defense of President Biden, but who among us who have children would not stand with their children through, if they have a drug addiction, if they are going through any type of criminal probe like Hunter Biden? What kind of man would Joe Biden be if, as Jasmine Crockett brought out, because that's all that he has shown. They went so far, Fox News did, saying what Biden did during his presidency in 2020, that this happened during Biden's presidency in 2020. That happened in 2020. That's what, guess who was president in 2020, Fox News? It's unbelievable. Unbelievable. But this, they get paid. The government's going to shut down. They're going to get paid. They're going to have their health insurance. They're going to go on lavish trips. They're going to do this, do that. And you and I will wonder if the check will clear on the next paycheck. Federal workers won't even get a paycheck. But they and as she pointed out, they want to ignore 91 felony accounts against a twice impeached, 4 times indicted, twice a civil jury said he was guilty of sexually assaulting a journalist. This from the man who, before he took office, told y'all with Billy Bush that it was okay to grab a woman by her private parts and that he could shoot someone and get away with it on Fifth Avenue in New York. But yet, 75 million people voted for this guy in 2020. 75 million, the second highest ever. Many say that they're glad it's the second highest ever because Biden got the highest ever, 79 million or 80 million. It's unreal that people continue to put their trust in earthling man, particularly those who sit behind the gavels in the halls of Congress, supposedly the hallowed halls of Congress. Jasmine Crockett just broke it down for y'all. Welcome to Let It Be Known. Today we're going to talk about what's going on in Power 96's town in Baton Rouge. He's got a rogue sheriff over there. He's got a rogue police department over there. That should be important. They got something called, what is it? Power 96, the Bat Cave? It's not the Bat Cave, but it's a cave. They call it the cave. We're going to talk about that and what they do in this cave, particularly to Black people. And speaking of Black people, we're also going to talk about, Tim Scott. Sometimes, when you so hard up to prove that you are down with someone, you're down for the cause, you just go way out there when those who are truly down for the cause won't go as far as you. Tell you what he said that's so aggravating this morning and that's just despicable. And you know what? Some people should just do everybody else a favor and go away, regardless of how they choose to go away. Just go away. Tim Scott is one of them. And Kevin Hart, I love Kevin Hart, but we're not loving Kevin Hart this morning. Kevin Hart had maybe it was a momentary lapse. Maybe it was a brain cramp. But he said something about people in the ghetto, the rave cave, right? He said something about people, poor people, not just people in the ghetto, poor people, particularly, and when you break it down, it's poor Black people. Kevin was out of pocket. Hopefully he realizes that, and hopefully he corrects what he said. We're going to talk about that. And Megan Thee Stallion is promoting mental health in a PSA that you guys must see. She's been very out front on this issue of mental health, like Taraji P. Henson and others. We're going to tell you about it. And speaking of PSAs, how about Chuck D, Fat Joe, Rick Ross, Method Man, and others getting together, doing something that Congress should be doing, They're pushing Congress to make sure that health care, they're promoting better health care for all. They did a PSA as well. And The Wiz, the new Broadway musical, the revamp of the old Broadway musical, has a debut date. They've set a opening date. We're going to tell you about that. But first, going down to Baton Rouge, or Rouge or whatever is Rogue. They've gone rogue in Baton Rouge. Rouge. The Brave Cave. Police violence and corruption is running rampant all across America, yet people will still try to convince you that they are worthy of public support. We just said that too, right? The Baton Rouge Police Department is currently under investigation for serious civil rights violations and violence against alleged suspects. The FBI has confirmed that they are looking into allegations regarding a torture chamber-esque police facility that has been dubbed the Brave Cave, where folks have reportedly been detained, beaten, abused, questioned, and strip searched, including women, out of the view of the public. One woman says an officer forced her to remove clothes while scanning her body with a flashlight. Another man said he was beaten so badly that he required medical attention before he could be booked into jail. And then a grandmother was detained by the Baton Rouge police for mixing 2 different prescription pills in the same container, and said officers interrogated and humiliated her in an unmarked torture warehouse known as, of course, the Brave Cave. The woman is Turnell Brown. She was pulled over by officers on June 10th and forcibly transported to the warehouse where she was stripped and cavity searched. Unreal. Unreal. She was held at the warehouse for more than 2 hours before being released without being charged. She's filed a lawsuit identifying officers Troy Lawrence Jr. and Matthew Wallace as the perpetrators. 6 members of the city council and the civil service board are all reportedly in on the corruption. Another female officer who was not named was also involved. She was not named in the lawsuit. Officer Lawrence, who was described in court documents as having an, quote, extensive record of injuring members of the public, he resigned last month. He was charged on Thursday with battery in connection with a separate incident from August the 8th, in which he is accused of using a stun gun on a handcuffed male subject before he could comply with verbal orders. The warehouse is run by the Street Crimes Unit of the Baton Rouge Police Department. It was closed a couple of weeks ago after these allegations became public. This is what is going on. And we've talked so much about the police and what needs to happen. And yet we got a government shutdown coming. We got all this crazy stuff that people that supposed to be representing their constituents. This is what's going on. Power 96 says Troy Carter Jr.'s father is number 2 in command there in Baton Rouge. This has been going on at least, they found that this has been going on at least since 2016. The city did pay, in one case, they paid a $4.5 million settlement to the family of a victim. Again, and Barrington brings this up all the time, that money, the city didn't pay that money. You paid that money. Baton Rouge citizens paid that money. Cops they have qualified immunity. He says, Power 9 says, I do feel bad for Mayor Broom. She has to do better. The mayor has the power, definitely has the power. I mean, we talk about the powerful police unions, but the mayor does have power when it comes to the police department. But we will keep an eye on the situation there in Baton Rouge. I'm turning our attention now to a travesty of a human being, Tim Scott. The South Carolina senator delivered a very embarrassing talking point during the Republican presidential debate. We talked about the debate yesterday, but we didn't talk about this. A lot of deplorable things were said during the debate Wednesday night, but Tim Scott's comments was the most deplorable. If you're sitting where people of color, particularly descendants of slaves, sit. During the debate, Scott argued that welfare assistance, welfare assistance was harder than slavery for Black Americans. Let me repeat that. During the debate, Uncle Tim Scott argued that welfare assistance was harder than slavery for Black Americans. He says Black families survived slavery. We survived poll taxes and literacy tests. We survived discrimination being woven into the laws of our country. Good. At least he admits that, because he's a part of who keeps pushing for these discrimination laws in our country. And in a line that for a moment sounded like he might actually be acknowledging system, he sounded like he was about to acknowledge it, right? Systemic racism. He says, what was hard to survive, this is this jerk. What was hard to survive was Johnson's Great Society, where they decided to put money, where they decided to take the Black father out of the household to get a check in the mail. Of course, Johnson's Great Society was launched in 1964. It was one of the most significant federal social welfare programs in U.S. history. It greatly expanded welfare, the welfare policy, by writing Medicare and Medicaid into U.S. law, increasing Social Security benefits, and generally expanding assistance to the elderly and the poor. What, friends, is wrong with that? But Scott, Uncle Tim says he had harsher words for welfare assistance than for slavery. It was not just an overt reach. It was embarrassing. It was simply embarrassing. Unreal. He's running to be Donald Trump's vice president, by the way, as if you didn't know that. He's running to run errands for Donald Trump. He's running to pick cotton for Donald Trump. He's running to say yes, a boss to Donald Trump. And Kevin Hart, we're not perfect. We're going to disappoint. It's a funny little guy, about 5'1", funny, very successful. People love Kevin Hart. Of course, he's amassed so much fortune off of his creativity, and as his star continues to rise, he has been reminded time and again that his words can resurface at any given moment. In the past, Kevin Hart has missed out on opportunities such as hosting the Oscars because of a controversial joke that made some fans feel like they were ostracized and ridiculed. Now he's receiving a lot of flack, and rightfully so, for a similar situation. This time, his comments don't involve a punchline. The comedian began a trending topic a couple of days ago as a clip pulled from his 2021 appearance at the 10 Times Growth Conference hosted by Grant Cardone began to circulate. In the video, he attempts to address how the government and big business exploit the lack of financial literacy in low-income communities. And this is what Kevin Hart said. He says, if you look in the hood, there's liquor stores and check cashing places. No argument there. He says, you know why? They know. The people in the hood aren't smart enough to open up bank accounts. They're going to get a check, they're going to cash it, and it's a liquor store right next to it. Let's just put that around them. Let's also put a bunch of stuff that's easy and cash available. We don't want you to gain credit. We want you to be cash driven. That's how we keep the poor poor. It's not until you understand that you get out. Okay. All of that is true, except the smart part. To accuse them of not being smart overlooks the systemic oppression that causes these hoods, that causes these ghettos. It's like blame, the what's never been a myth is how drugs got into the hood, right? What's never been a myth is that how all of these alcohol, these liquor stores became synonymous with the hood. That's never been an accident. what's never been a myth is the lack of opportunities that many in the hood have. You can say, oh, you can work your way out of it. And it's true. Some have, many have. Not all can. Go back and watch Good Times. That kind of mirrored how people get stuck in the ghetto. Kevin Hart, come on. You can do better. And then it's the folks got on him about that. And Power 96 says, I agree with the liquor store and the check. Exactly. Check cashing part. But Power 96, but everything else is trash. One Twitter or X user said that Kevin Hart had a real I forgot where I came from moment. That might have been me. I wrote that on Twitter. The social media user added that his commentary was very much a response without acknowledging facts, and that some folks leave the hood and altogether forget the plight. Another user wrote, I need people to stop blaming us for systematic oppression. We aren't the ones that opened up the liquor stores or opened all the payday loan places. On Instagram, a user said this, doesn't he have an alcohol company? Uh-oh. Yes, Hart has a reported net worth of about $450 million. And yes, he co-founded a alcohol distribution distillery, I guess. Is that the same word? Distribution distillery. In 2022, he launched his tequila brand and in partnership with Juan Domingo Beckman, an 11th generation tequila producer. He says, I wanted something different in the market to tell a story that hadn't been told before for my fans, for my culture, and a generation who has never tasted a Cristalino before. I wanted something different in the market to tell a story that hadn't been told before for my fans, for my culture. And yet he's railing about liquor stores in the community. And Mike V says, not that they aren't smart enough to open a bank account. They can't afford to maintain their balance of $500. If you live paycheck to paycheck, that makes sense. Predatory businesses exist in poverty. Yeah, Kevin Hart got do better. Let's get Kevin Hart into some of these community centers to talk to some of the folks in the hood. I'm sure he can make that happen. We just did something on my man John Leguizamo going to Rikers Island. If John can go to Rikers Island and talk to these inmates and perform for them, Kevin can go to a community center in the projects, the pink houses in Brooklyn or somewhere, and talk to the folks. Listen more than talk, because obviously he needs an education. He needs to be re-educated. It reminds me of the miseducation of Lauryn Hill. Lauryn Hill is on tour, y'all, with the Fugees. Funny how money changes the situation, huh? So check out this PSA from Megan Thee Stallion. She, you know what? You got to give her a lot of credit for this. Let's check it out.
I got involved with this campaign because I genuinely know what it feels like where I don't want to open up and I don't want to talk about it and I don't tell people, no, I don't like this. This is affecting me this way. I'm sad. I don't want to do that. And I know what it feels like to be in your head and feel like I can't talk to anybody about this. I don't want anybody to know. I'm embarrassed about how I feel. So I just want my hotties to know, or anybody, but specifically my hotties. I just want my hotties to know, like, let it out, tell somebody, because somebody does care. Because if that person cares, they'll make your day 100% better, and helping you would have made their day better.
That is awesome. That is awesome. And this is fresh off of her dazzling audience with a guest performance during the Houston stop on Beyonce's Renaissance tour. She does this. I tell you what, and this is definitely a compliment. Houston women, y'all guys, many of y'all sound, especially, well, Houston women, y'all sound alike. It's got a nice. They got nice voices. I like Houston women voices. Nice. I just want to point out, Janet Diaz is watching on Facebook and says they stopped teaching schools economics. They want people to live in poverty, and that is very true. But I was so overjoyed the other night. My wife and I went to our daughter's open school night, and my daughter has a financial literacy class where they talk about credit building and bank accounts and things of that nature. And I was like, wow, when did this start? And of course, it just started in this particular school. So, yeah, Janet is absolutely 1000% correct. We wasn't taught financial literacy. Many was not taught financial literacy or anything about interest rates, loans, and things of that nature. So she's right. But congratulations again, Megan Thee Stallion, stepping out there. PSA is check in on your friends, and she even opens up about her own struggles with mental health. You know, it's so unfortunate. One of the lasting memories, at least in my head, of Megan Thee Stallion is always going to be her limping with police guns drawn, limping and blood pouring out of her foot after Tory Lane shot her. And that's unfortunate because there's a whole lot more to Megan Thee Stallion than just bleeding foot and limping and getting on the ground for police. But this is when we commit crimes against each other that makes no sense whatsoever. There's another PSA that's going out, and I'm not sure if we have this one geared up or not, but let's.
Hip hop has been a
Yes, we
reflection
do.
of culture
Let's check it out.
and society.
That includes stories of struggle and pain,
Social injustice,
racial inequality,
the marginalization of communities
Today, we confront a healthcare system
that has been rigged against all of us.
Hospitals force patients to sign contracts for services,
without ever showing us actual prices,
stifling competition.
overcharging without accountability,
And if we can't pay, these same contracts
allow them to take everything we own.
creating so much fear that millions and millions of Americans refuse to enter our hospital.
Putting our health and our lives at stake.
This is an American humanitarian crisis.
We love our nurses,
And we need our doctors.
but hospitals and insurers
Rigging a system to make profits off of people that's in struggle is unforgivable.
We demand prices
And transparency in healthcare. Power to the patients.
Power to the patients. Hip hop legends Fat Joe, Rick Ross, Busta Rhymes, Method Man, French Montana, and my man Chuck D have teamed up with Power to the Patients, a national nonprofit organization dedicated to achieving system-wide price transparency in healthcare. They unveiled that public service announcement that you just saw, demanding elected officials commit to creating a healthcare system with transparency to allow for more honest, affordable, and equitable healthcare across the country. If you stay tuned and check out perhaps the Washington Informer and other Black newspapers, I wrote a story. There is a new stat or new survey that came out, study that was released. Talked to some people, and I wrote this story just yesterday on how hospitals discriminate in ways you wouldn't even think. And when they say you have an emergency, go to a hospital, there are hospitals, if you Black or if you are Hispanic or if you are an immigrant, and in some cases, if you're a woman, they will turn you away. They won't tell you it's because you're Black. They won't tell you it's because you're Latino or a woman. They turn you away. You got to check out that story. At some point, it'll go up on blackpressusa.com, but check out other Black press newspapers for that story. We write it, put it on the newswire, the internal newswire, and our publishers are able to pick it from there, and they generally do. And you can check it out, like I said, Washington Informer, the Philly Tribune, wherever you are, check out your local Black newspaper for that information. Dr. David Childs is watching. He says, there's such a stigma against mental health in the Black community. I am grateful to see high-profile individuals address the topic. And Mike V says, what a great collab with hip-hop artists and politics. What a great job. Them, using, this is how you use your fame. This is how you use your celebrity. Doesn't always require you giving to charity, giving money, right? Give some of your time, and this is what they did, and big up to them for that. And Power 96 says the VA does that too. They discriminate on the low. And he would know. He would know. He's been there. Finally, this morning, folks, we wanted to try and end your Friday and send you off into the weekend, the shutdown weekend, on a more positive note. And I think those PSAs are very positive. But the Wiz, the new revival, the way y'all remember, Ease on Down the Road, Stephanie Mills, Michael Jackson, all of them, Ease on Down the Road. There's a fox. I'm looking at a fox. He's in my front yard. It's really startling. That's why I'm like interrupting this broadcast to bring you the breaking news of that fox that just stood there and looked directly at me. Power 96, you got a rifle I can borrow? The new revival of The Wiz is opening on March 29th, 2024. It'll begin previews at the Marquee Theater, followed by an opening night set for April 17th. The musical will feature Wayne Brady in the lead role. A sold-out pre-Broadway national tour launched in Baltimore this past Sunday. I don't know if anybody caught it, but of course, Baltimore was the site of the musical's original world premiere nearly a half century ago. In addition to Wayne Brady, the Wiz's Broadway cast will include Nichelle Lewis as Dorothy, Deborah Cox as Glenda, and Melody A. Betts as Aunt M and Eveline, Kyle Raymar Freeman as the Lion, Philip Johnson Richardson as the Tin Man, and Avery Wilson as the Scarecrow. Come on and ease on down the road. My sister, Dr. Nicole, says, be careful when foxes are out in the day. They're probably rabid. Yeah, there's two over here. One is really red, and the other one, it looks like he's angry. So anyway, that's the story of the fox, and that's the story of the Wiz. It's a brand new day at last. Check out the Wiz. I love going to Broadway. Wow. And Power 96 says he's walking down the street with a rifle right now. Of course you are. Of course you are. Thank you so much for joining Let It Be Known. Folks, have a safe weekend. And hopefully on Monday, we can bring you some better news on the shutdown than we can give you this morning. But Jasmine Crockett, you nailed it, my sister. You nailed it. Our award-winning representative, Jasmine Crockett. Thank you all for watching Let It Be Known.